Welcome to the Seahawks Forever podcast. In-depth analysis on everything Seahawks. And now, here's your host, Dan Viens.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Seahawks Forever, and welcome to Fast Fashion Brewery here in Soto, right next to Hooverville, across from the Showbox Soto. Lots going on down here in this part of the town tonight. Big weekend series with the Texas Rangers. Mariners with the bases loaded as we speak, and now just walked in a run, so they take a 1-0 lead against the Rangers, who they now lead. Talk about baseball. We're here to talk about football. Dan Viens, Bryce Coots joining me tonight from Hawk Zone Rundown. We have a lot to talk about today. We thought we were just going to be talking about a training camp practice and wrapping up a training camp week of practice elsewhere in the NFL that may have Hugh being a potential trade target of the Seahawks because there are just so many dots to connect, and it just makes sense in so many ways. Bryce, what do you think of the news today that Micah...
Carroll at that time, they swooped in and did it just before the season started. I think there's a good chance this could happen again for Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, this is a different situation. Usually these guys don't become available, right? We thought it might happen with Myles Garrett earlier in the offseason. Bradley Chubb, the last one that we can recall, still in his prime, back in 2022 being traded to the Dolphins. A little different situation, though. He had severe injury history. He was coming off a couple of years that weren't very productive. Not the case for Micah Parsons, about to enter his 5th year of his rookie contract, over 50 sacks in his career, never less than 12, including last year when he missed 4 games because of a high ankle sprain. This one does feel different. The Myles Garrett thing, it felt like it came to a head, but it got fixed, right? But the Cleveland Browns didn't go out of their way to offend Micah Parsons over and over and over again than that Dallas has done. It feels like, and you read his statement today, right? A 2.5-page statement that he posted on social media for Micah Parsons explaining his reasoning for wanting to leave. He sounds like the bridge is burned.
No, I would agree. I think that bridge is very burnt, and the only way I think it's going to get fixed is if there's a sum of a mass amount of money that goes to his pocket. But for me, the comp of this situation, if you were going to trade for Micah Parsons, you're looking at when the Raiders traded Khalil Mack to the Chicago Bears. Young ascending pass rusher or elite level pass rusher. There's going to be a couple first-round picks involved. There's going to be a player going back the other way. I think that's a comparable one. You talked about the Bradley Chubb deal. Like you said, there were injuries on Bradley Chubb's part. You kind of weren't seeing the same production or level of dominance that you've seen from Micah Parsons at different points in time. I think if any team's going to make this move, and Seattle does have the ability to do it, we're not talking about a team, that's hard up against the cap or doesn't have the draft capital. If Seattle really views Micah Parsons as a player that can make this team contend now and add him to Mike McDonald's defense, which, as we saw today, is going to be a very difficult unit to play with, it could make things really interesting for Seattle.
Yeah, and if you want to pay him near the top of the market, which you're going to have to, that is now $41 million a year, thanks to TJ Watt, average annual value, that the new deal he signed a couple of weeks ago. I think there's 4 reasons you do it if you're Seattle. First of all, there's the need, as you say. We like their edge group. There's some nice players there, although it's shorter than it's been. With Uchenna Nwosu not part of the group right now, there's only 3 guys there. I mean, when they're over before practice doing blocking sled drills, with the edge rushers, there are only the 3. Even guys like Jared Ivey, Connor O'Toole, they don't really truly play that position. Last year they kept 5, right? Trevis Gibson was a 5th edge player along with Draymond Jones. So it's a need just from a volume perspective, right? From a personnel perspective. But also, to your point, they just don't have that guy that's a problem for defensive coordinators. They don't have that guy that keeps offensive tackles up late. Parsons is that. He's an elite player. And I'm actually surprised, and I don't know if you've had a chance to really see this today with all our running around, I'm actually surprised at the resistance from Seahawk fans right now to make this move. It's suddenly the Seahawk fan base has gotten conservative when it comes to going out and getting a superstar. They don't want to give up too much. In my opinion, the reason this makes sense right now is because of the Seahawks roster overall. First of all, we talked about this on the show just the other night. 35, on my 53-man roster projection, I had 35 rookie contracts, right? We're talking about one of the youngest rosters in the league. ESPN just ranked their 25 and under group the second best in the entire league. And you'd be adding a guy in his prime to that. And so what we have is a roster that's layered and balanced with a ton of talent. but we need those blue chippers. We need those difference-making superstars that I've heard Daniel Jeremiah say when he does his roster reviews in the offseason before, you need about 8 or 9 of those guys to be a Super Bowl contender, to really, truly be a championship contender. The other reason we know the connection with Adam Dirty, who was his defensive line coach in Seattle. Parsons is on record as raving about Dirty. We know the relationship there. And the Seahawks have the top 6 cap situation over the next few years. And because they drafted a quarterback this year who they believe has potential franchise quarterback upside, to me, that makes that first-round pick next year a little bit more dispensable if there's a guy out there worth trading it for, because you're not going to be in the hunt for a quarterback.
And that last point that you just made, for me, when I look at the 2026 draft class and the priority need for Seattle is an edge player, is an elite level edge player. So am I going to go and spend it on a rookie that I now have to develop, see if he's going to actually have the output and the kind of production of Micah Parsons, or am I better to go get a proven commodity in Micah Parsons that's still young, I can still sign to an extension, which obviously if this trade were to happen, that would be the biggest thing for Seattle. They'd have to work out the extension part of this.
Yeah.
But
yeah, you're not making that trade without a deal.
Not a chance. And so that's why I look at it and I see the logistic sides from Seattle. You're getting a more proven commodity than someone you have to kind of hope is going to develop, hope that's going to have that same level of production. You're filling a need, and I think if you add Micah Parsons to this, you now are looking at Seattle as more of a threat in the NFC West. I'm not saying they're not one, but you're looking at them as one of the top teams in the NFC West because you add him with Byron Murphy in the middle of that defensive line, who we're hoping is going to take a jump this year. You've now really solidified that front seven and given it some youth movement going forward.
Let's see what you guys have to say before we move on. Some people are already concerned about whether or not JSN would give up number 11. So, there's that. Brendan says it's unlikely to happen. And, that's the mindset I take with any of these big moves, right? They're all fun. We live in a fantasy football driven world, and we all want all the stars. But to Brandon, I would say, why not? Why not the Seahawks? When you start making a list, right, of teams around the league where there's fit, where there's the ability to do it if they want to do it, where he might be happy with where he makes sense scheme-wise, like, if the list is 5 teams deep, Seattle's one of them. If it's 3 teams deep, I think Seattle's one of them. I think you can make the argument that Seattle's the best fit and makes the most sense.
I would agree with that, and it's somewhere Parsons wants to be. He has a real connection with, Durde as his defensive line coach when he was there, and his most productive seasons came with Durde on the defensive staff there in Dallas. So there's your connection at that point. And how many of us thought Jamal Adams was a real possibility when that situation actually came different? It was the same kind of thing. Oh, yeah, Seattle may be in the conversation. Maybe they make – and sure enough, 2-3 weeks later, we find out Jamal Adams is being traded to the Seattle Seahawks. I get you don't want to move on from a franchise player, but the Jets did it. If the capital's right, and Dallas needs to find a way to get their salary cap situation under control because they have other pieces they are going to eventually need to pay, and you have a very disgruntled player. For what Parsons put out today on social media, I don't think it's a situation where, we can just come back to the table. And if you looked at Diana Rossini's second post on the Parsons thing, stating that Parsons and Jerry Jones had conversations in the spring, Jerry Jones and the Dallas staff thought, that means we've got a deal done.
So weird.
And Micah goes, no, I have an agent. My agent will negotiate this for me. And then the Dallas Cowboy organization never re-engaged his agent in any sort of conversations around a new negotiation of a contract.
It's weird.
And that's where I think it gets really weird with this whole situation.
Yeah, it's one of the most bizarre contract negotiation situations I can ever remember, especially for a star player. Like, they've effed around with stars before and almost found out, but they've been able to make it work. But they always do it after the fact, and it costs them a whole bunch of money. One of the things that really struck me in Parsons' statement today was he said last offseason and the offseason before it, he approached them about wanting to do a deal and would have taken less money at that time. He said it wasn't about money, I just wanted to be here long term.
Yep.
Now it's going to, now if he's going to remain a Cowboy, it's going to cost him.
A lot of money.
It's going to cost him. In the comments here, there's somebody named Kickup who claims they're here. I don't know. I know there's hundreds of people here. I can't quite see where they might be. Here, if everybody will clap. Okay, there we go. See, you can hear that. That's how many people are here. It's crazy. It's a great crowd out here at Fast Fashion Brewing, which, by the way, this German Pilsner is maybe the most delicious beer that I've had in quite some time. Also, Bryce is quite enjoying his Diet Cola from the fine folks at Seattle Soda over there. Okay, let's get on to, let's continue, and let's talk about what we saw at practice today. And I really want to lean into this on you to begin with. So for those of you who don't know, Bryce doesn't just host a podcast. He's a football coach, and he specifically coaches offense, and more specifically quarterbacks, has the Pinnacle Quarterback Academy up there in British Columbia. Your first time this year live in person seeing the quarterbacks, spoiler alert, it was a really good day for them for the most part, especially one guy. What'd you think of the group?
So for me, the guy that really stood out today was Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold has separated himself. There isn't a discussion. There's no Matt Flynn, Russell Wilson situation about to occur in Seattle. It is Sam Darnold's job. It's going to be Sam Darnold's job, and I think it's going to be Sam Darnold's job for the entirety of his contract. He looks calm. He looks like he understands what this playbook and this offense wants to do, and he understands the weapons he has around him. And the one thing for me that I really liked seeing today was his decisiveness to make throws in the middle of the field, understand where his checkdowns were going to be, and get the ball to them. He didn't hang on to the ball. Even when he did get flushed out of the pocket, eyes were downfield. He was looking for his guys, and he found them. He didn't throw, really the one interception I believe he did have, which we'll talk about in a bit, was Devin Witherspoon being an elite level corner, not so much Sam Darnold threw a bad ball.
Right.
So Drew Lock, definitely an improvement from where we were last year with Sam Howell and where we were 2 years ago with Drew Lock. Drew Lock looks like a very capable backup quarterback of winning you 2-3 games in a season if you needed him to. Jalen Milroe is a developmental quarterback still. He is working through his mechanic issues and syncing that with his progressions. It's not something that is going to happen overnight, but his athleticism showed up today, and there are things he can do that just other players on the field can't do. And those are the things I think we'll see Seattle use this year to give them an advantage in certain situations. We saw some of that today, Dan, when we were there. But the throwing, it's inconsistent. He'll hit a great throw over the middle, and something that he struggled with in college, he'll make some of those throws, and then he'll really struggle with a real simple throw, like throwing it out into the flats to Brady Russell, and he one-hops it to him. Like, there's just things like that. But from an overall perspective of this quarterback room, I think it's safe to say Seattle is in a better position overall in that room than they have probably been. I don't even know the last time we had a quarterback room. Maybe since Russell and Tavares were together.
Yeah, because they've never really kept a legitimate third quarterback, and so just by default, it's a better room. But I've thought over the first couple of weeks of seeing camp, and now I've seen 6 workouts in person, that I think you can make a strong argument it's the best overall quarterback room in the league. Like, you can argue till you're blue in the face that if you have a Josh Allen, it doesn't really matter who you have after that. That's a better room. But you know what I'm getting at, right? Just as far as, because you have a legitimate second string quarterback that has proven he can come in and win some games for you, and who hasn't even hit 30 years old yet. And then you have a guy with an unlimited ceiling who has the potential to be a franchise quarterback. But I love the plan that they have in place. I love the decision to bring in Drew Lock, sign him for 2 years, no pressure for Jalen to play. And the thing that impresses me about Jalen, then we'll work backwards because I really want to end up to digging into your thoughts on Sam Darnold specifically. The bad plays are still there from Jalen. They're still there. But I'll say 2 things about that. Number one is they're not there like they were in Mobile when the good throws were the stark exception to the rule down there. I mean, he was abysmal the whole week down there. He's gotten so much incrementally better. And the thing I like, and I've seen this now, like I said, for 6 practices, when he makes a bad play, it's just one. He doesn't let the train go off the rails. He doesn't let it get to him. He bounces back really quickly. We saw that today. After the pick, he came back, made some big plays. There's a lot being made out of how the last play of practice today was a 60-yard bomb down the middle, split the defenders. Outstanding throw from him there. You mentioned that you thought Drew Lock was better than when you saw him in camp 2 years ago. And I want to get into that a little bit because I felt that way when I saw him last week. I thought he looks like a different guy than I saw 2 years ago. But from a quarterback coach's perspective, specifically, what are some of the things that you saw that he's better at now than he was then?
He's better at manipulating the pocket and creating throwing lanes for himself. So one thing I noticed with Drew before is he would backpedal out of situations very quickly. If there was pressure, especially in the interior and the A-gap, he'd get out of there and he'd bail out of a pocket instead of just manipulating it, slightly sliding, creating another throwing lane for himself. He did one today where he slid slightly to his right and fired it right down about 20 yards down the middle to Cody White, who made an unbelievable catch. Yeah. But that stuff Drew Lock wasn't doing 2 years ago. Drew Lock would have hung on to the ball. And the other thing I liked about Drew's game today that I didn't see a lot of 2 years ago, understanding, again, where his checkdowns are, playing within the system, playing within the rhythm. And again, that I think speaks to what Clint Kubiak is doing here with the quarterbacks. You have to be a rhythm-based thrower in this offense. You can't be someone that doesn't understand your footwork, and that was one thing we saw in the drills earlier in the day. They work a lot of under center. They work a lot of under center boot stuff. It's not all sitting in shotgun. It's all not 7-step drop, 9-step drop and hitch up. It is stuff that is built on rhythm where if you go through your progressions at a certain point when you hit this step, this guy should be open. If he's not, this is where your hitch will take you. And those are the things you can see, especially with Drew Lock and Sam Darnold, that they are so comfortable in doing in this offense, where with the Jalen Milroe, that's somewhere he still needs to get to.
And then to bring it all back to Sam, I've been pretty consistent in saying, other than last Friday, he had a little bit of a down day last Friday. I thought he's been really sharp all through camp. Really, really impressive. I thought today was the best version we've seen of Sam Darnold that I've seen of him. I thought he was pinpoint accuracy. Even on a couple of incomplete balls we saw, or balls where there were plays made by the defender, well, that's where the ball belonged. Like his ball placement. I talked about this the other day, the analogy with baseball, right? Control versus command. Control means you can throw strikes. Command means you can pinpoint those strikes within the strike zone. And there's a difference there. Jalen Milroe still working on his control, right? But guys like Locke and certainly Darnold that have been in the league for quite some time, really honing in on that command. I thought Darnold was unbelievable today, and that even includes that he did throw the pick. But as you mentioned, and we are going to talk about some defensive plays here, it was a spectacular play. You said something to me today about Sam Darnold's future, where you flat out said you think he's going to sign a second contract here. That you feel that good about how he operates in this system and how comfortable he looks.
Yeah, that's kind of my bold thought process here. I think there's a good chance Sam Darnold does sign a second contract here. I think if he can play the way he showed today and the understanding, and again, when I'm looking at this, I'm looking at it from a coach's perspective. How does he go through his progressions? Not so much of, how many bombs did he throw or how many, bad interceptions did he throw? How does he work within the system and how does the team respond to him? He is the leader of that offense. That is his offense. As much as there's Cooper Kupp, JSN, all these other pieces in there, that is Sam Darnold's offense, and you can see it by the guys and the way they respond to him. The second part of this is the thought process about, yes, we went with there was always the talk about Gino's arm. And Gino and Sam's arm, we're taking a step back. I didn't see a step back today. In some respects, yeah, maybe you don't have the same power and velocity in the ball that you did with Gino, the way he could spin it sometimes, but you're not losing it to a point where it's noticeable with Sam Darnold. But I think your accuracy increases with Sam Darnold on certain throws. One today, for example, that, when we were standing there, he throws a beautiful out route at about 12 to 10 yards to Eric Saubert, and it is so well thrown, and Emin Warry's in coverage, and Emin Warry's there. It's not like Emin Warry's not there. And it hits Saubert in the hands exactly where it needs to be, and it goes through his hands. And we all went, oh, yeah, this is a great play by Emin Warry. And my point was, yeah, it is a good play. Emin Warry's right there. It's sticky coverage. But Sam Darnold still threw Saubert open and put the ball where only Saubert could get it. And we're not talking about 7-on-7 when there's no rush. There was legitimate rush in Sam Darnold's face, and he just stuck and threw the ball. Those are plays that Sam Darnold didn't make with the Jets. Yeah. Those are plays he didn't make with Carolina. Those are plays you saw him make with Minnesota. And this is why I think the biggest thing is when you have a quarterback that understands the system he is about to go into and can play within the system and play within the structure, they excel. It elevates their skill set, and they elevate the players around them. I think we're starting to see that. We'll see it through the preseason. We'll see it through the first couple games.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's out of the realm to say that there is a chance Sam Darnold might be here longer than people initially expected him to be.
And we're not going to get into the discussion tonight, but just for those of you who hear that and immediately go to, well, then we wasted a third-round pick on Jalen Milroe, if that's the case. It's not how that works. It's not the truth at all. We'll have that conversation another day. And I do want to give credit where credit is due as well. Drew Lock in the red zone period today was phenomenal. Had 3 touchdown passes in a row. At one point, 2 of them were spectacular throws. And then Darnold, we noticed at one point they were really hammering throwing to the flag, right? The corner routes in the end zone. He's exceptional at that. Just really knows exactly how to layer it and how much air to put on the ball. I want to get into scheme and concepts with you because you saw a lot that you liked today. But generally, one thing that I have noticed as a theme throughout these first 2 weeks that wasn't always the case during Gino's years, certainly was not the case when Russ was here. They are just bang in the middle of the field in the passing game, aren't they?
Yes, they give 2 high shells trouble. So there was a lot of dagger today where you got your wide out coming in and running basically your digger in route at about 12 to 10. And sometimes they'll sit down on a hash depending on what the linebacker in Miller when he threw one down the field to on the sideline. Those are the type of things that attacking the middle of an offense or a defense does for an offense. And the other part of this, which, again, is something I really like, is the play action game is alive and well in Seattle again. And I can't
play action and under center.
Play action under center and certain concepts that we probably haven't seen since Mike Holmgren's era here. Things that have been staples for a lot of other teams are now starting to come into Seattle. And one of them is running the Y or U tight end back underneath into the flat and dumping it there. And it's an easy 7 yards every time.
A couple other things we saw today is we saw some work being done on the screen game. Like the screen game, the old traditional pull a couple of offensive linemen, leak the running back out into the flat, dump it off to him and let him go with numbers that we've seen teams kill us with over the last 10 years, but haven't run very well ourselves, at least not in a while. And then, just the tight end usage really, really excites me. The whole group. With the whole group. We saw Eric Saubert making plays. Barner had the big touchdown down the middle today. Was that from Locke or was that?
Darnold.
Darnold, again. It was like a 40-yarder seam ball, perfectly placed seam ball. And then Elijah Arroyo. The thing I like about this rookie class so far, and here, I'm just going to jump ahead because I know we've got that here. Let's jump ahead to this. They have shown up from day one this offseason almost to a man, every single one. We even saw some good stuff out of Mason Richmond and Bryce Cable do today, right? In some new spots. We're going to talk about the offensive line in a minute. But Robbie Utes looks like he's been playing fullback his whole life and looks like he was created out of granite to play the position. We saw him score a touchdown in the red zone today on a fullback dive. We've seen all the early guys, like Gray Zabel has been the starter at left guard and looks the part from day one. Arroyo has made plays every day in camp. And Nick Emenwari, this entire week, I would make the argument, and I saw 3 practices this week, best defensive player on the field for the Seahawks this week, as far as production goes. He's knocking the ball out. He's making plays in coverage. He's coming off the edge and had another interception today. I think it's his 3rd in 3 days.
Yeah, Nick Emenwari is really impressive, and I think he's going to be a real problem for opposing offenses because, like you said earlier, you've got those guys that make your players stay up at night thinking about, okay, how am I going to deal with this guy in offensive coordinators? They are going to have to know where Nick Emenwari is lined up on the field. Like watching him today and the amount that they use him in certain different situations, coming off the edge, dropping to the hook flat, and then having him line up in the box and then drop to the deep third of the field because he's such an athlete. Those are things you can't ask every player to do on your defense. Like, those are things, if you remember, if we go back to Cam Chancellor, and I know there's the comp there that everyone's talking about. I'm sorry, I don't see that comp with Nick Emenwari. I see a Kyle Hamilton comp, and I see a better athlete than Kyle Hamilton.
Yeah.
Nick Emenwari can do things Cam could only probably dream of doing in some respects. And one of those is, okay, I'm lined up near the edge, and I'm going to take 3 back pedals, and then I'm bolting, and I'm going to the deep third of the field, and I will get there by the time the ball gets there. That's how he ended up with that interception today on Arroyo. He bailed and just took off.
Yeah, there's some guys who are just playmakers, right? We saw it with Kobe Bryant as a rookie quite a bit, just around the ball all the time. And, crazy, right? And we want to help with reasons they won't make it. Instead of that, he had a plan. He had a plan for Nick today to get the most out of him, away from things that he still needs work on for making plays. And that's something you can't coach.
No, you can't coach that, and that's why you go out and get that player, and you make that trade up to go get a guy that you viewed as a first-round talent. those are the type of players you need to have impact. We talked about blue chip players. I think Nick Emenwari is going to be one of those guys out of this draft class.
Okay, we can't talk about rookies today without talking about here. Let's put this back up here. Another guy that's been great every single day he's been on the field since camp opened last week is Torrey Horton. I am higher on him every single day, and he had a touchdown catch today. That is as good a catch as I think I've ever seen in a practice session, right? I can't remember who was guarding him. Josh Jobe, and it was a fade to the corner, and he jumped up. The ball was perfectly thrown, but Jobe had worked his way behind him just slightly, right? He was in good position. Horton's diving essentially. He's in the air. He's airborne, jumping towards the pylon, and reaches behind him, and scoops the ball off of Jobe.
Basically
almost.
Pulled it off the back of Jobe's number on the back of his jersey and just pulled it over his head and then got both feet in by the pylon.
Unbelievable. Yeah, he's been great. He's really been great. And for those, I had a good friend tell me the other day after watching practice that he thought everything, he thought they looked good, but he was worried that we don't have any receivers. That was his exact quote. We don't have any receivers, right? Speaking of receivers, though, you were really intrigued to see Cooper Kupp up close in person and see if the things I've been saying about him were true.
And they hold up. Yeah. They really do. Cooper Kupp does not look like he is going to take some massive step back this year. Now, I'm not saying Cooper Kupp's going to play all 17 games. I think if we get Cooper Kupp between 14 and 16, that's great, right? That's still good production. And again, having guys play the entire NFL season is not a realistic goal in a lot of ways anymore due to the expanded regular season, but he is still fast. He is not slow. He isn't slowing down. And just the way he runs routes. He cooked Devin Witherspoon on an out route in the red zone period there. And Witherspoon was probably about almost 4 yards away from him by the time Kupp had caught the ball, toe tapped, and walked out of bounds. And I was those are things you just didn't have on this team last year. Yes, you had JSN, but DK wasn't doing that as much. Love DK, but that wasn't his game. Tyler hasn't done that for years because Tyler has gotten older, and that's what occurred.
Yep.
As much as people are terrified that we don't have this deep threat, as we saw in this offense today, they took deep shots. They took a lot of them. They don't necessarily need a burner to do that. It's the way that they set up and sequence their plays that are going to give them those opportunities and explosives.
The other things we saw out of Torrey Horton today is it looks like he's one of two guys that are finalists, at least based on what we've seen in practice so far, to return punts.
Yeah, no, and it's him and Steven Sims, and they both catch the ball so cleanly. It's not like what we saw last year where we had, D. Williams.
D. Williams and then Jalen Darden.
Yeah, Jalen Darden. And Darden actually did a good job to the back end of that season, but it wasn't like our special teams unit there in the punt return game was making any differences really at the end of the day.
Yeah. This is great. We actually opined about this from the berm. We're because I looked down right after that touchdown and I could see that the Seahawks media, one of the guys with their cameras that are out there shooting practice was right there on the corner. So I was hoping they'd post it. And it sounds like, according to Rampancy, they have posted that Torrey Horton touchdown on their socials. So go check that out. Now, this is always a natural reaction. I get it. We hear it from fans all the time, right? And I'm seeing it as soon as we started talking about Horton. Right? Horton over MVS could happen at some point. Hot take. Horton starts over MVS. It doesn't matter.
No.
They're all going to play. It doesn't matter who starts or what they're all going to have a role. And for everybody who wants to show Marquez Valdez-Scantling the door, he's out there. And first of all, he looks like one of the veterans. He looks like a foundational player in this offense. And he looks really great.
He does, and he's got a lot of the slot snaps that we saw today. Yep. They move JSN and Cooper Kupp in and out of there. But I think that's where they see their matchup for MVS in this offense when we're talking about deep shots, is getting him in the slot, getting him on a safety, getting him on a linebacker that's going to maybe have to carry him up the seam a bit. And those are going to be advantage plays for them. So when I look at the interesting thing for me, and I think the biggest battle people should be paying attention to when it comes to this receiver room, and it involves a rookie, is it going to be Cody White or Ricky White that makes this team? And when we saw today with the twos, Cody White is running with the 2 offense. Ricky White is running with the 3rd offense.
Yeah. I actually thought Ricky White had his nicest day that I've seen today. Caught everything cleanly. Looks quick, runs decent routes. It's going to be one of the more intriguing bubble battles.
Yes.
And I think it may ultimately come down not to who they think is the best player, but just which one they can get through waivers to the practice squad. Yeah. Let me see. Okay. So this was a big deal today. We have known since camp started, Mike McDonald said he would like to settle on his starting five sooner rather than later. It's something I've been pounding away at for months. It was, I think, one of the biggest problems last year wasn't just some of the personnel decisions they made or how they handled that battle at right guard, but it was that they just didn't find their guys early enough in camp to build some continuity. Today there was something that I saw at the beginning of camp beginning of practice I did not like. But we'll get into that a little bit deeper as we go. So first of all, Ola team is just starting center.
Yes.
There is no question in my mind about that now. Even the rotation between he and Sundell has slowed down a little bit. Sundell seems to be playing more guard and tackle. And Olu is the guy. I just, based on what I saw in practice today and Monday and yesterday, like he's the guy. It's not even a rotation anymore. However, the right guard picture seems to have changed significantly. Yesterday, Anthony Bradford got his shot, and Greg Bell said it was his turn. Well, today, Bradford was the starting right guard as well the whole day because Christian Haynes, this is one of the biggest news pieces to come out of this practice today, I think. Once the individual drills were done, Christian Haynes didn't take a rep in any team activity the whole day, had his helmet in his hand, didn't look like he was hurt, never talked to a trainer, started to run out on the field at one point, you noticed, got pulled back.
Yep.
It appears Christian Haynes might not be in the competition anymore at right guard.
Yeah, and that was the interesting thing because when we saw the positional drill part today, when they started to work with the quarterbacks after they did their initial warm-up and everything, Christian Haynes was the number 2 center. And Sundell was the number 2 right guard in their alignments because each quarterback gets a line in front of them.
Right.
And that was the other interesting thing to me was, okay, so you don't even have Haynes taking snaps at guard.
Yep.
Then they go from that. They do some inside run stuff. They do a couple things here and there. Haynes is still in it. The minute they moved to team, Haynes did not take another rep the rest of the practice. And that was at least for a good hour.
Yeah.
Hour and 15 minutes that Haynes did not. And like I said, he noted, he went to go on the field, and I was watching him because I went, okay, they're going in a different direction, like on the field now. Maybe Haynes gets in this. He started going, and he got pulled back. And I went, That's really interesting. And it plays to a point, I think, that Greg Bell wrote about with what Mike McDonald was saying to these guys on the field. If you're walking, you're wrong. And from what I've heard from other people, Christian Haynes does not have exactly the most get up and go between drills. And that could bite him in the butt because we're talking about a guy that last year was a third round pick that got beat out by the guy that was in the 6th round in Lamea. So what would have given that inclination to go that way? It could be just work ethic, period. And maybe that's something we're not seeing necessarily.
Well, and I thought last year when McDonald explained the decision to go Lamea over Haynes after Bradford got hurt, there were some, I thought in his tone, he kind of implied last year that there might have been practice issues. He talked at length about how it's what you do in practice that determines those decisions on game day. Because I remember, he got a lot of run in the Detroit game last year. He and Bradford played about 50% of the snaps at each. I thought he looked really good. And then they took him out of the rotation the next week. And it sounded like it might have been because of poor practice habits. It's a bummer because the Seahawks do as much work on that kind of intangible stuff with their prospects as any team in the league does. They weed out guys like that, guys that they hear don't have good work ethic. But sometimes it's just impossible to really know how someone's going to make that leap. And I don't even have to look at the comments over here. I'll bet you there's a whole bunch of them that are saying things like, well, that was a bust, that was a wasted draft pick. Sometimes that happens. Yep. It just happens. You can't hit on them all. Look at the traditional hit rate on third-round picks. If it goes this way, and you heard me, I was not happy at the beginning of camp.
You were
just
not.
Because I love what Anthony Bradford gives you in the run game. I hate his pass pro, but he was good today.
Yeah, he was good. And this is where I think, again, when we look at Anthony Bradford and we look at, when we saw him play a little bit in Shane Waldron's offense. Even in the pass pro then, he wasn't as bad. When we saw him last year with Ryan Grubb's very heavy drop back pass game, he struggled immensely. This offensive scheme and what Clint Kubiak does and what we got to see today, the pocket is never in the same spot on every single pass play. So now you're moving it, which now creates opportunity for your linemen to set themselves up in a better space. And I thought Bradford today looked immensely better than what we saw last year. So I'm not surprised. And you got to think about this too. And I when Brandon Kane was with us there, and we all kind of said the same thing. He's never lost his job when he has been the starter. He's been injured, and that is what caused LeMay to play last year, was his injury. It wasn't that, Bradford was playing so bad we're pulling him. It was, okay, he's injured. He had, I think it was an ankle sprain that he had last year, and LeMay took the job. And he was basically out for the remainder of the season. So I think it's worth noting that Bradford, I don't think necessarily is a bust, like some people wanted to label him as because of his bad pass pro. I think there's a chance that, he ends up being the starting right guard for the Seattle Seahawks, and it's not going to be as bad as we think it's going to be. I'm not saying he's going to be an all-pro or a Pro Bowl level player, but if we can get, again, like Floyd Womack type of play or Rob Sims type of play out of that guard position, that is a lot better than what we have seen in past years. And like I said to you today with Olu, I'm not expecting Olu to be a top 10 NFL center. But Olu to me is my comp from is Chris Spencer when he was here in Seattle and took over for Robbie Toback. Chris Spencer was a good center.
I thought that was cool.
But he was never an elite center, and he was never a horrible center. He was just a very good, solid center for your offense, and I think that's exactly what Olu will provide in this game.
Well, when he was drafted, I'm on record as saying I thought he had the look to me of a 10-year starter who would never make a Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
Like that type of player. And there's so much value in that, right? Like a 3-contract center to man the pivot in your line. I had questions about whether that was going to come true based on, some of the decisions that were made up front the last couple of years, but he kind of looks like he's really embraced that position. And you even noted today, like he looks quicker, he looks faster than you've seen him before. I think guys look to him for some leadership in that room. I've seen them interact before. I'm really encouraged by the offensive line because as much as the Bradford thing gives me pause, I trust John Benton and his experience, and Rick Dennison and his experience, and how many linemen they've seen come and go. And if Christian Haynes never starts another game for the Seattle Seahawks, fine, get a pick for him if you can trade him, whatever. All that matters, to me anyway, is that they build a functional offensive line. And even though it wasn't full pads today, but you can still tell quite a bit, today was the best day I've seen through these 2 weeks for the quarterbacks getting time to throw. Yep. Even without pads, they were struggling to get time to throw the football last week. Not the case today. I thought the offensive line was pretty damn good.
No, I thought the starting unit was really good. I also thought the 2 unit was an interesting combination because
there was a lot going on there.
There was a lot going on, but once they kind of settled in with what we saw for the team portion, where you had Cabledew playing left tackle, you had Mason Richmond playing left guard, you had Sundell at center, and then your right guard was Lamea, and then your right tackle was Kite. It looked pretty good. And then you also had the occasional time where you would pull out Mason Richmond, put in Bryce Cabledew, and put Mike Jarrell at left tackle as well. And Mike Jarrell looks a lot more comfortable at left tackle at the NFL level than he does at right.
Interesting. Yeah. And the other thing, too, and the one guy we haven't talked about yet, but many of you might want to know, because we did see Charles Cross back out there today with a jersey on, but he's obviously not practicing. He just had the finger surgery. Josh Jones looked pretty damn good at left tackle today.
He did. I'm not nearly as concerned as I was with Stone Forsyth.
Yeah.
Josh Jones gives me a little bit more ease if he has to play.
Who did you think he looked like? Oh, you thought he looked like George Fant?
Yeah, he looks like George Fant with number 74 on. Very much similar build and athletic profile, so, that's a positive there.
Any questions from the crowd? It's hard to get their attention because it's very, very full. It's very, very loud.
So you've got an in-person super chat from I'd Rather Be Flying an X-Wing?
Super chat from I'd Rather Be Flying an X-Wing.
Perfect.
With all that conversation, do you think they've actually settled on their starting O-line, or are they still rotating people through and trying to figure it out? Between the surgery and Haynes kind of taking a step back.
Right. So the question was, do we think they've settled on an offensive line? I'll say what I said today at practice. I think with only, the mock game tomorrow or whatever it's called, the scrimmage, the football fest, whatever. And then I presume they'll have the day off Sunday. And then you play a Thursday preseason game. I think we saw the starting offensive line for that game today. And I think it's Bradford at right guard and Oluwatimi at center, and then Josh Jones instead of Charles Cross at left tackle. It sure seemed like it today because that's the least rotating of the first group I've seen in any of the practices I've been to so far.
Yeah, that's true. That group did not move a lot. And honestly, in my opinion of it, I think they will settle on that offensive line after the Raiders preseason game. I don't think you'll see a lot more moving with that starting unit. I think if Bradford's the guy and he has a good preseason game versus the Raiders, that will be their lineup going into week 1. Haynes is going to be an interesting thing to see what happens and see if any of the reporters ask Mike McDonald tomorrow after the scrimmage, because he probably will have media availability.
Yeah.
What occurred there at practice? Why didn't Haynes take a single rep in the team period when he didn't go see the trainers? He didn't do anything. It looked like he was just held out.
I did reach out to one of the reporters that covers the Seahawks on a regular basis, right? And I asked him, hey, do you know anything about Christian Haynes? Why is he not playing today? Anything up with him? And his answer was, he looked like shit yesterday.
Yeah.
Which would have been Thursday, the morning practice, which I didn't really notice him looking like shit. Brandon and I were out there together. I'd have to get his thoughts on it. But, it sure seems like that's the 5 for now. Yeah. By the way, a reminder that tomorrow from 2 to 4 here at Fast Fashion Brewery, right? First Avenue, right next to Hooverville. We're going to expand this show a little bit. Wanted to do one tonight for a dry run, make sure we worked out all the technical aspects. We will have some lighting tomorrow, will be a little different. Although the sunset on our faces is
great.
kind of,
nice.
I kind of like it. We might have to set up a sunset cam for tomorrow as well. Maybe we'll go with a 2-cam show tomorrow. But Mookie Alexander, managing editor of Field Goals, is here with us today, and he's going to be with us again tomorrow, as well as Brandon Kane for the Hawks Nest and Corbin Smith of Locked On Seahawks, and Emerald City Spectrum's going to drop by before he heads over to the stadium as well, too. Do you have a question for us, sir?
Yes, you two lovely gentlemen. I have a question about Tyrese Knight. What did you think about Knight's performance, and also how well he was going up on the line of scrimmage?
That guy sounds like Mookie Alexander.
He does really sound like Mookie Alexander.
Yeah, we saw him play the edge a lot today.
Yeah, I noticed that. It was really interesting. So, they had Tyrese Knight come up and play as an edge defender. They almost did what you would call an overlook and rotate your linebacker to the edge. And we didn't see Knight do that a lot last year, because in some respects, Knight's a little undersized for it. But the roles they had him doing, where he'd come on the rush or fake like he was coming on the rush, then drop back off, those are some things that, we didn't see this linebacking core do a lot last year. So I'm going to be really interested to see how they, how they get Knight on the field in certain sub packages too, because we talked about potential, and we'll talk about, I'm sure, with Nick Emenwari. But if Tyrese Knight can show his more versatility to do more things than just be a traditional off-the-ball linebacker, it's going to give him more playing time again.
Yeah, and I've been talking about this all preseason, and we talked about it again. We did a combo of 53-man roster projection on your show earlier in the week, that the inside linebacker position, right? And when it comes to roster construction and the depth there, that maybe that's a spot you can borrow from, because you have to account now for a fullback and a third quarterback. They've typically kept a fourth inside linebacker on the roster. Drake Thomas is the third guy. That's unquestioned. He can play Mike or Will, and the coaches really like him. He was out there making plays today. In fact, at one point, that was Patrick O'Connell. We saw covering a guy 40 yards down the field. That was pretty cool. But that they might not need a fourth inside linebacker because of all the sub packages and things that they do. They actually take a linebacker off the field. And when they don't, Emenwari has played quite a bit of weak side backer over the last couple of months, and so has D'Anthony Bell, safety.
Yes. D'Anthony Bell is going to be a factor in this defense, and I think people need to realize that they've kind of settled on their 4 true safeties. You've got, obviously, the starters in Julian Love and Kobe Bryant. You've got Nick Emenwari, who I don't think will play a lot of safety, and this is why I think they're going to keep 5 safeties. And that other safety, to me, is Ty Okada. he will be on this 53-man roster, I think.
Yeah, he's running with the twos regularly.
And he's doing a lot of the communicating in the back end with the Anthony Bell on that twos defense. So I think that's where you're going to see their fifth safety. I think the cornerback depth is going to be something interesting.
Yeah, we did see Shaq Griffin back today, but not in uniform, not on the field. We thought we saw him back. Some of the reporters said he wasn't, but that he is here. Yep. He has returned after a personal issue. On that same note, though, Ernest Jones is back after missing the last couple of practices for a personal issue. He was out there today running healthy. It looks like no ill effects at all from the cleanup on his knee that he had, that he said it's the best his knee's felt in 2 years. He was out there, and he was actually a guy that you thought stood out as well today.
He did. He, for a guy that's missed some time, came back and looked like he hadn't missed a beat. Commanding the defense, moving around. I was really impressed with what I saw from Ernest Jones today. And, yeah, man, honestly, Dan, this defense, I think it's going to be scary this year. We're just naming every person.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Right? Like you were just talking about corners. I thought Nehemiah Pritchett has been really solid.
Better, yes.
He looks like a guy maybe the comp is Josh Jobe. Like he looks like a guy that if he had to be called on to start and play tomorrow, he'd do a serviceable job for you. Yeah. But I'm not just saying that's his ceiling is serviceable because he's out there making plays. But he doesn't look like a guy that's blowing coverages. He looks like he knows where he belongs. He moves really well. He's got nice length. And that is a concern because that cornerback room is not signed beyond this year except for Devin Witherspoon and Nehemiah Pritchett. And they're going to have to pay some of those guys. So we'll see what happens with Shaq. But it doesn't, just in a big picture sense, doesn't look like a sore spot when you're watching practice. But maybe that's because, everyone else is playing so well. Mike McDonald's not holding back.
No.
This idea that when teams practice against each other, they don't go hard. He's emptying the playbook. We're seeing sim pressures. We're seeing exotic blitzes. We're seeing stuff, and he said it in the offseason. He was chomping at the bit to get into it this year because he had to be so conservative last year, and at one point even pulled back some of the playbook to get those guys on the same page after that poor start. He just seems like a kid in a candy store. He's just having much fun throwing everything he can at the offense, and I think that's kind of where today came from. I felt like for me was he's been hammering them for 2 weeks, and now the quarterbacks and the offense is starting to catch up to what the defense is throwing at him. Because, I know we've already talked about the quarterbacks, but today was the best internal clock scenario that I've seen. I don't think I saw one rep from any of the quarterbacks, save maybe Milroe, where I thought he was holding on to the ball too long.
Yeah, no, and I think the other thing, too, is I think the offense as a whole is getting to be an understanding of where they're supposed to be on certain things. Because to shout out another receiver, we talked about Torrey Horton, we talked about something. Jake Bobo was on point today with Drew Lock and Sam Darnold, and they've got him running some of those option routes you've seen Cooper Kupp run in the past. I call him a lookie route, which is you basically go to about a certain point on the field, whether it's about 5 yards, 7 yards, and you play the leverage and set the DB up for where you want to go, and you're either breaking in, you're breaking out, or you're sitting down. And he runs those exquisitely well, and the timing with Drew Lock and the timing with Sam Darnold on those was really impressive today. Yeah, Jake Bobo is going to be a factor in this offense more than just a blocker, and people that think that he's going to be a tight end or they should move him to tight end, no. Jake Bobo is going to be a viable receiving option in this offense as a wide receiver.
And the more you watch him operate under Clint Kubiak so far in camp, you realize what an underutilized weapon he was last year with Ryan Grubb, especially short yardage and red zone. And we mentioned earlier, and you just reminded me that Drew Lock had the 3 straight. Actually, I think it might have been 4 straight, but the first 2 were to that exact same route. Ran it back to back to Bobo. It ran it the first time to perfection. Defender had no answer for it, and they ran it again. It was like, if you're not going to stop us.
Yep. They ran that back-to-back, gained probably 24 yards off of it, and then they went to a fullback dive to Robbie Utes to punch it in from the 1 yard line.
John McGrath asked, did Martinez get any time? Thanks for asking, because I didn't want to leave him out. This is how good today's practice was, and generally, I think today and yesterday combined, but today by far. I wish Mike McDonald would have spoken to the press. I would be shocked if he said anything other than this was our best practice so far. Damian Martinez, I talked to Corbin Smith about it last week after Kenny McIntosh got hurt. The concern was, can he handle the passing game? Just hasn't been asked to do it a lot in his career. And that same day that McIntosh got hurt, or the day after he got hurt, I was at that practice, we saw Martinez drop a couple of balls. The next day, Greg Bell and Corbin Smith both reported that Martinez was outstanding in pass protection drills. And Corbin, who used to coach running back, said it was one of the best drills he ever has seen from a running back. And then today, we saw Damian Martinez catch a couple of balls, John, and it looked really natural doing it. One was we had a great angle of it where it was kind of just over the outstretched arm of the defender. He was turning away on the side, one of the toughest catches that you're asked to make, and he made it look really easy. So really encouraged and impressed by what we've seen from Martinez in the passing game since the McIntosh injury, because Lord knows once the bullets start flying and we get into games, we're going to see what a physical runner he is.
Yeah, and speaking of running backs today, one guy that truly impressed me, and I really think the conversation on him needs to elevate even more, is Zach Charbonnet. I was skeptical about how Charbonnet was going to fit in this offense. Charbonnet looks leaner. He looks faster than what he did last year. And like I said to you, I feel like he's reshaped how he maybe prepares in the offseason. He looks closer to what UCLA Zach Charbonnet looked like than what he did the last 2 years, which I think was more of what he was at when he was at Michigan, more of a thumper, more of a pounder. He looks explosive, like he can actually burst through and go for a decent amount. So I think there's going to be points this year where we've heard about it, where you're going to see Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet on the field in some of these schemes that Kubiak's already dialed up, and there's some very interesting things they're doing.
Yeah, Walker didn't practice today, but it doesn't sound like there's anything wrong with them. They're just trying to take it easy. A couple guys got veteran rest days today. Leo Williams wasn't out there as well. Rampancy asks, or doesn't ask, but points this out, so I want to give a shout out. Byron Murphy with a fumble recovery. Coaches had to love that on Damian Martinez. Punched it out. A couple other guys, because we just have to name every player on the roster. I mean, that's how many guys flashed today. I feel a lot better about the interior defensive line situation than I did going into camp. Both Brandon Peely, especially Brandon Peely to me, who Mike McDonald kind of raved about at practice the other day, and Quentin Bohanna kind of rotating in with that group with Jonathan Hankins being out at nose tackle, and they both showed themselves. I thought especially Peely showed some burst, like really good athleticism for a guy his size. Got into the backfield once, would have been a sack. Jared Ivey flashed a couple of times today. That's been a theme this week.
Connor O'Toole.
And we even saw Connor O'Toole in what would have been a sack if they wouldn't have blown it dead.
Yeah, no, and Mike Morris, again, made plays today. He was another guy that was in the backfield. Like, Mike Morris seems to have some sort of fire that's been ignited in him. I think he really does realize, like, this is his make or break it. Like, this is not, you've got, an ability to still stick here. Like, you're in the last year of your rookie deal. You need to do something to prove to us that we need to keep you beyond this season and next season. Mike Morris is looking pretty good in there, and they're doing some different things with him, which I like to see. You can see, again, more of this playbook is getting developed for Mike McDonald. So, again, the defensive line looked good. I think you've got potential solutions at nose tackle in case something happens to Jonathan Hankins. But overall, like, this whole defensive unit is moving so fast. That's the thing. They know where their checks are, what their landmarks are, where to be for certain looks. They're not thinking as much, they're just reacting and playing. When you see the twos come in, and especially when you see the threes come in, you can see that drop back to where it looks like last year's off defense. This year, that starting defense just moves, and they are so fluid in what they do. I'm going to be really surprised if they don't start super fast this year, especially in game one versus San Francisco.
Maybe it's just because of all the changes, so I'm watching it closer. But just watching the offensive coaching staff operate, they just seem like we heard, throughout the process and after the hires, we heard the word alignment a lot. These are all guys that share DNA, that have worked together in the past. They all speak the same language. They're on the same page. They understand the scheme. Whereas last year, it was a bunch of guys that had never worked together before, outside of Huff and Grubb, trying to figure out a new scheme, essentially, that he was making up on the spot. And you see it in how practices operated. I think players move in and out of periods really well. It seems really sharp and efficient. They're getting the most out of their time. You're seeing, if you sit and watch the offense operate for 15 minutes, you see just about every concept possible. You see running game, you see play action, you see spread, you see inside, you see outside. And then when they break apart, and you see that the way that John Benton teaches and the detail. And then you notice it with the quarterbacks today, that at one point, Locke, and this goes back to the quarterback development plan we talked about, where Locke and Darnold were at one side running a period. On the other side of the field, the other end of the field, it was Milroe in the threes, and Janoko was still down there with, kind of followed Milroe everywhere he went. So even though you've got Benton, and maybe that's why they expanded the staff so much. You've got Justin Outen, who's a run game specialist and an offensive assistant. You have Jake Peets, who's a passing game coordinator. It kind of looks like it is Andrew Janoko's personal mission in life to develop Jalen Milroe. So they're splitting that up. You just don't see third quarterbacks at this juncture of camp very often, at least not in a situation where the starter's established. Yes. You see it in Cleveland where you have five guys and they have no idea who's going to start, right?
Yeah.
But you typically don't see the third quarterback getting as many reps as you saw Milroe get today.
No, and that was the interesting part of it too, was like you said, Janoko was with Milroe all day. And usually what you see when they go to these sessions where they start running through their concepts and start doing a bit of install, you see all three quarterbacks together. And the third guy will get 2 reps. It was lucky, maybe 3.
Yeah.
This was Darnold and Locke were separated, and they were getting a majority of the reps. They were going almost 5 reps each, and Milroe had everything with the third team. And he was running the same plays, but he had that entire time to himself to work with Janoko, and Janoko was coaching him the entire time.
Let's see what kind of questions we got here from you guys. Yes, sir.
Okay, if you had to pick the Mariners city uniforms or the Seahawks throwbacks uniforms?
Oh, I don't.
That's not a conversation.
Yeah.
For me. That's the throwbacks, easy.
Yeah, I think the throwbacks might be my favorite uniform of anyone ever, honestly. And I never used to think that, because when the throwbacks were just the uniform, I kind of thought they were ugly at the time, right? It was big shoulder pads. It was the floppy sleeves. But the new uniform style, they're so clean and they're so sharp. And the older I get, the less busy I like my uniforms.
Yep.
And so that's why I really like the throwbacks. But that being said, and maybe this is why you asked the question, you might have heard me say this, but as I was walking back up here to start the live stream, I loved it. And people get fired up about uniforms. They get mad about uniforms, right? I love these City Connects with the black pants.
Oh, yeah, they look really good and they look sharp. But there's something about those throwbacks that just hits different when you see them and how clean they look now. I love the throwback uniforms. Can
we just get a throwback Logan Gilbert now? I need to see the 2024 version of Logan Gilbert. Mariners down 3-1 in the 5th, it looks like right now. It's not making me happy. What do we got here, guys? Let's see. Seahawks fan 72, good to see you back in again. She said, how nice would it be to see our offense score on their first drive of the first game? That hasn't happened for nearly 2 years, I think. I'll take it a step further. This offense just hasn't started fast for several years, going back to Russ. Like, it's been a problem. And when you have a guy like Mike McDonald and you have all that talent on defense that they have, if this offense can get leads, I mean, to me, all of a sudden, I mean, I said this team looks like an 11-win team. If they can run the football, right, sustain drives, and get leads, this team can win 13 games.
Oh, 100%. And the thing with this offense, the way it's structured and the way it's designed, it is designed to play with an aggressive, sound defense. It doesn't work when you have a defense that has holes in it, because it cannot really function coming from behind in 2+ score games. I again think there's a good chance Seattle may come out in week 1 and be very, very, very fast starting on both sides.
We talked a little bit about punt return. Setting the Edge is asking, was any kick return work done today, and who was returning?
Horton and Sims.
Horton and Sims, we saw, so at the beginning of practice, we saw like 6 guys out there working on it, including, guys like John Rice Plumlee, Steven Sims, obviously, even some Zach Charbonnet. But it looks like Horton and Sims are the 2 guys.
Yeah, I think Horton and Sims are your 2 guys. I don't think that's going to deviate much. I think it'll be more of a, do we want to, depending on how the preseason goes for Torrey Horton, I think it's going to come down to a conversation of, do we want to subjugate him to potential hits on the kickoff if he's going to be a more vital part of the offense? That's where I think there's a good chance 6 receivers get carried. is Steven Sims that 6th receiver, or is he some guy that you are designating, you are putting on your practice squad and will have as a game day elevation to return kicks, and then you got to find a way to get him on the roster at some point permanently.
Yeah, again, I think those last couple of roster decisions are just going to come down to who you think you can get through waivers versus who you like better. And that's why we were having these discussions at practice today. It's like, okay, if it comes down to Ricky White, Cody White, well, Cody White has a long history of getting through waivers and bouncing around practice squads, and I don't think that changes at the age of 28 or 29 after he's been with 9 different organizations. Whereas Ricky White, yeah, he was taken in the 7th round. Sometimes I can tell you what the league thinks about a guy. But if he has a good preseason, shows he can return some kicks, make some plays in the passing game, maybe they feel like they need to protect him. Because remember, last year, I thought was the best example we've seen of them making some roster decisions that hurt them on game day in order to try to protect the team for the future, and that was keeping those 11 offensive linemen because they didn't want to expose Sundell or LeMaya or Haynes or any of those guys or Jarrell to waivers, and they wanted to protect them all. So who do you think, based on what you saw today, could be a preseason star, a Levi Bell, a Tremaine Pope, a Jamie Sheriff, a Nick Reed, one of those guys that just blows up in the preseason, gets everyone all excited, and then never has a career?
Tyreek Smith.
Okay.
I think Tyreek Smith has a chance to go off in this defense in the preseason playing against threes. I don't know if Tyreek Smith necessarily has a career out of it.
I mean, 3rd year in the league, got released, went to Arizona for a year, came back on the practice squad, 5th round pick out of Ohio State a couple years ago. Yeah, we saw him mixing it up today a little bit. He and Jared Ivey combined on a quote-unquote sack at one point today. He was out there a lot with the twos coming off the edge. That was fun to see. Are you concerned at all about Jason Myers?
Yes, I am.
He had a rough day yesterday.
It didn't stop today.
When Brandon Kane and I were out there today. And yesterday he did a pretty lengthy field goal session out on the main field. And at one point missed 3 or 4 kicks in a row, 5 out of 6, I think, and was pushing everything right. I didn't see it today, but at one point you looked down at the far field or one of you said, he's still pushing it right.
Well, and there were points he was pushing it left today. It was almost like an overcorrection. He was pushing it left. So yesterday he's pushing it right. Now he's pushing it left. And hopefully he finds the middle soon.
We probably shouldn't have brought that up because fans are going to worry about the kicker big time, especially in the last year of his deal, making what he makes. We're talking Mariner baseball here, though. Yes, you in the 9th row.
Now that you've seen several days of camp, what do you think our potential is to see another thick 6 this season?
You mean a big guy running down the field? Big guy running?
Yes.
Let's see, who would it be? If another big guy, I could see Byron Murphy doing it.
Yeah, Byron.
Played running back in high school, right? Played some fullback at Texas, which, by the way, I was talking to somebody today, maybe it was the kid that was hanging out with us, about the potential of Murphy playing fullback with Oots playing tailback in the red zone. If it's the Jets game all over again, you're taking 7 cracks at it from inside the 3.
You got to try something.
Yeah, they're not getting turned away. The odds of it, that's such a unique thing. That was such a great play. I'd say it's probably a 2 out of 10, but if it does happen, I'll put my money on Byron Murphy this year.
I'm going to put my money on DeMarcus Lawrence.
Okay. Does that count, though? He's kind of fit and lean and slender.
Hey, he's on that D-line. He's on that front.
Thick 6. That's,
he's
I love that.
D-line. I like that call, though, thick 6.
Am I just late to that, or did you just make that up? Thick 6. I've never heard it. That's awesome. Hoop Craze says, order some wings for me. So I don't think they have wings here, but what they do have, how's the pizza, you guys?
Hey, guys, how's the pizza?
So the owners here, it's Randy and Matt Storm, father-son duo
we got some pizza
here at Fast Fashion. And once again, this German Pilsner was spectacular.
Try a piece of your pizza, the pizza here, Dan.
All right, let's do this live on air.
Yeah, let's give this a
little
go.
Food review. So they also own the Masonry over in Lower Queen Anne, a little restaurant over there, and they make these pizzas from scratch, and then they put them in a turbo chef and cook them up, and it looks fantastic. So we're going to try it. We're going to do a live review right here. Little one bite, everyone knows the rules, right? One bite, everyone knows the rules.
This is delicious.
Little Dave Portnoy action. How's the flop? Okay, no, good flop.
Good crunch. Good crunch.
Good crunch. I love when the pepperoni curls up. That's like my favorite thing. And they don't cheat you on the cheese. This is fantastic.
This is really good.
I give it on Dave Portnoy's scale, where he almost never gives out 9s. I'll give us a 8.3. How's that? An 8.3. Not bad for a previously frozen pizza. That's fantastic. Let's see if we got any last questions here before we wrap this up, and then just a reminder that tomorrow from 2 to 4 we're going to be down here again. So if you're here, so the Mariners play tomorrow at like 12:45, right? If you're coming down for the Mariner game, you can come in afterwards, or if you're coming down for Football Fest, you can swing in before that. Starts at 6 o'clock at Lumen Field. We're going to be here from 2 to 4-ish. You know, if we go a little bit over 4, what have you. Brandon Kane's going to join us tomorrow. Corbin Smith, the first segment, and then Mookie's going to sit in with us after that until we're done. Really looking forward to that. Again, it's on First Avenue, across from Showbox Soda, right next to Hooverville. Fast Fashion Brewery. Really, really terrific. Got all the kinks worked out. We'll play with some lighting tomorrow, maybe. But come on down, drink some beer, eat some pizza, and hang out with us before Football Fest. Let me see here. Oh, yeah. John says Portnoy always takes 3 bites.
Cal Raleigh did it again.
Raleigh just hit his 43rd? Or was that 42? Oh, it's not a home run.
No.
Okay. All right. Bryce lied to me.
Sorry. I got you all excited.
He drove in a run, but it doesn't count if you're if it's not a home run, you can't get excited. All right. Oh, here we go. Thanks, Seahawks fan. Yeah, let's just do this. Really appreciate all you guys being here. Holy smokes, look at that number.
That is a big number.
Haven't had numbers like that since the draft, so thank all of you for tuning in and watching. That is fantastic. Would love to see some of you down here tomorrow live. If you come in, by the way, just walk through the front door and then just keep going to the back. There's a game room in the back, or you can enter on the alley behind the brewery. Be sure, again, if you are coming down tomorrow for Football Fest, remember there's a Mariner game, so make plans accordingly when it comes to parking.
Yes.
You might want to Uber in, you might want to light rail in or something. There's going to be a lot of people down in this area tomorrow, but definitely try to plan ahead and come on by. It is worth it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Subscribe to the show if you haven't already, to the channel. Bryce Coots over on Hawks on Rundown. If you're watching there, subscribe as well. Any final thoughts from what you saw at practice today, or what you're looking forward to tomorrow?
I'm looking forward to seeing this again be a scrimmage, which we believe it's going to be tomorrow, not what we saw last year, which is a walkthrough practice. Sounds like it's going to be a scrimmage, and based on how practice went today, I think that's what we're going to see tomorrow. I'm interested to see these guys move around a little bit faster and get that hype for it being a preseason game. And to be honest, there's a lot on the line in this preseason game, which is very odd to say. You have Pete Carroll coming back to Seattle. You have Geno Smith.
Weird.
You have Jamal Adams. You have all these ex-Seahawk players that were at different points huge players in this organization.
Yeah.
It's going to make that Thursday night game very interesting. I think that's going to be a very different feeling preseason game because, and even for Mike McDonald, you are now standing on the sideline across from the guy that really, in some respects, made Seattle what they are. So it's going to be interesting. I'm excited for it to see tomorrow and see how they put it all together.
Let's do this. Let's take this out the way we always do. A little bit of music there. Again, follow me on Twitter at Seahawks Forever. Check out the Substack. It will be free through the entire preseason. So jump in on that. We'll catch up on some material this week. It's been a little bit of a rough go. Just trying to get all settled here and kind of get everything up and running. So again, we will be back here tomorrow at 2 o'clock Pacific time. Myself, Bryce, Brandon Kane, Corbin Smith is going to sit in with us for a little bit. Mookie Alexander will join us on camera and on microphone tomorrow. We'll get you all ready for Football Fest, and then we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
Bryce, thanks for being here. Thank all of you for watching. We will see you tomorrow. And what do we always say when we wrap this up? Forever and always?
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.